Alright, all you glorious gamers out there, welcome to the PlayersToo podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find PlayersToo on all the social media, that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can also find our written content over at PlayersToo.com, that's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts, that would really, really help us out. I cannot explain enough how much that helps us out. It does a huge amount for the visibility of the show, and thank you so much to anyone that's already done that for us. You're an absolute legend. And to anyone wondering whether or not they should do it just now, yes, you should. Go and do it just now. Just do it just now. Alright, and on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me, as always, Mr. Lewis Camley. How's it going, Lewis?
It's going not bad at all, Mark. I have been in a day-long meeting in an airless room, and it's perfect preparation, a work meeting for coming around here and listening to your nonsense. How you doing?
Was that a compliment?
It wasn't intended, this one.
Okay. I'm okay. Slightly confused now. What have you been playing, man?
I have only been playing more Death Stranding this week. I haven't had tons of time, actually, for to sink into it, but I'm not even sure if that's accurate, actually. The thing is that Death Stranding eats up so much time. It is such, I think I said a little bit of this last week, but it is such a mood piece that it's very difficult to think about much else while you're playing it. And it really, each time you boot it up, it takes a long time to kind of get going because there's so much mission prep and kind of waypoint finding and that sort of stuff going on. But I have progressed into the 3rd chapter now, which is kind of where you need to be when the game starts to really open up. By this point, you've kind of been given some tools that make the game easier to play, and you sort of understand a lot more of what's happening around you and how to deal with it, particularly in regards to the BTs, which are the kind of ghostly spirits, and the mules, which are the sort of possessed human NPC enemies. So now I'm in this new environment. There's a bit of a kind of locale jump. So yeah, the terrain is slightly different. It's a really interesting part of the map. Just, it feels like the world of Death Stranding has happened more to the place that I'm in now than the original place, which is really interesting to be in. I've had one big boss fight now, which was a piece of piss, and did make...
That so wasn't what I thought you were going to say.
Obviously, combat, it's well known, combat isn't a big part of this game.
No.
I won't give away much about the boss battle, right? But the way it's set up and the actual thing that you're fighting is quite, frightening and daunting. And when I saw it, I was a bit like, oh Jesus, here we go. But yeah, like a very classic Hideo Kojima boss battle for me, where I just kind of spammed a couple of buttons, and it was literally I finished that boss battle in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Like, it came up and said that at the end. Yeah, I took no damage, I took no hits at all. I was not unsettled in the slightest. So, and it's not that I'm particularly good at this, because dealing with the BTs at certain points, I've been absolutely bricking it, and I completely embarrassed myself with the mules at the start of this new section of the game, because I was sort of like, oh, in the first part these guys were easy, and I actually just drove past them quite a lot, and then this time they took me to task. So good. I'm still loving it. It is such a big, broad, strange game. It more and more feels like the gameplay loop of Metal Gear Solid 5 to me. I can't really explain that in any short-term way, but just the quick decisions, the way that you use your tools quite innovatively. I had to escape this area at one point, and I just quickly flung up a ladder and hoid myself over this wall, and it was that way where I was like, I would never normally do that in a video game. I would have found the normal exit. I would have tried to gather up all the resources that are, definitely scattered around this area. But I thought back after doing this to like that feeling that you sometimes had in Metal Gear Solid 5, where you were like, I've been spotted, I've had to kill some people, I've had to call in an airstrike, or I'm praying for a sandstorm that will just give me that like opportunistic moment to get out or to find a new vantage point or whatever. And so suddenly the game feels much more like that to me, and honestly I cannot get enough of that part of it. So yeah, I'm still totally falling in love with it. It's still not the simplest or the most straightforward game to love, but more and more I think like it's probably Game of the Year. But you told me something completely stupid off here about your intention not to play it quite yet. Tell me more about that.
Well, let's start with what I have been playing, then we'll get on to what I will be playing. So I've finished Outer Worlds now. I've finally finished Outer Worlds. What a tremendously good game that was. I think it just got to me at the perfect moment. Mm-hmm. It was such a fantastic RPG. It was beautifully like Fallout, like those old Fallouts that I have such love for, that I have such brilliant nostalgia for. Even like the NPCs and your companion characters, like I absolutely loved a lot of them. Pravati, absolutely awesome. So happy that performance has been nominated for Game of the Year. Fantastic. I don't think she's going to win it, because unfortunately she's up against Mads Mikkelsen and Norman Reedus, but nonetheless I'm super glad that performance was highlighted there. It was just superb. It's not without fault, though. For example, I actually thought this game was quite easy.
Oh, yeah.
It got to the point where I had a set of guns that were just ripping through everyone. So what I would say is, actually, if I were going to play this game again, I'd probably put it on the harder difficulty. So I think there's 4 difficulties. I think there's there's a 5? I can't remember. Anyway, there's like a story, then there's easy, then normal, then hard, then I think there's like very hard.
Right, okay.
I wouldn't be scared to put it on hard. Like if you're considering playing this game, or if you have started it and you are finding it easy, I wouldn't feel any like anxiety about going up to hard. I know that for some gamers that can be intimidating to go up from just the baseline difficulty. You know, like I certainly used to feel that way about
absolutely.
games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel that at all. Like, so for example, you're still playing it, you can change the difficulty in game. I would probably recommend that you actually just did bump it up, and you'd probably get a better experience out of it. The ending was a bit lackluster, honestly, but I mean, it was great and it capped off the story, and it was all good. It was satisfying from a story perspective. It wasn't necessarily satisfying from like a gameplay perspective.
Cool. That's what I was going to ask you there. Like, is this that the narrative didn't wind up well, but it's just
no. The narrative wound up fine, perfectly fine, absolutely fine. It was a fantastic game, though. Like I said, it just got to me at the exactly right moment. I was so ready for a game like this.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it wasn't 80 hours. I'm glad that it was like quite a concise, albeit still pretty long. Like I definitely put over 40 hours on it, I would say.
What do you between 40 and 50 then? Is that roughly what you think?
Probably closer to 40 than 50, I would say. And for me, that was a nice, good length.
Yeah.
It was great. Absolutely loved it. The other game that I've been playing is, of course, more Pokemon. More Pokemon List. It is so good.
Nice.
However, not without fault. Again, well, to say that this game is easy is making my statement about the Outer Worlds seem nonsense. It is incredibly easy. It's very, very easy. Like, my starter Pokemon had evolved before I got to the first gym, and it wasn't even supposed to be strong against the first gym. And I just wiped the floor with it with one Pokemon. It was not difficult at all in the slightest.
How does that compare to previous Pokemon games as someone who hasn't played any since the first ones?
Oh, well, from the first ones, even like Gen 3 and Gen 4, I mean, you still had to do a good bit of grinding. I mean, like I said, I always used to choose Charmander as my starter in the proper originals, like Red and Blue.
Yeah.
I mean, that was hard. I mean, you had to do some serious grinding with Pokemon that you'd caught to get past the first gym, because the first gym was
strong against fire types.
Was strong against fire types, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there was often a bit of grind. It does feel a bit handholdy. It does feel overly handholdy. But again, the outrage around that, I don't really care.
Yeah,
it's still just a Pokemon game as well. Going through routes, there never used to be any way to heal yourself apart from your resources like potions, whatever, revives, all that. However, there seems to be a person on every single route, at least one person, that will just heal all your Pokemon and revive them all. And I'm just kind of a wee bit like, well, it's kind of taking the challenge away from it a bit, isn't it? You know?
And as well, presumably you don't have to talk to them though, right? But
you don't have to talk to them. But you're bound
to, really.
But yeah, because they don't look like a Nurse Joy or anything.
Uh-huh.
They just look like a person. So you just go up to that person and then they just go, oh, here, your Pokemon, and then they're all healed. I don't know if I have to click yes or no to that, but I mean, what are you going to do?
I know,
you know
exactly, yeah.
It's very easy. It's very, very easy so far. I'm just past the first gym. I've got to the first wild area though. Now that was good. That was great. That is a total step in the right direction. It's a shame that more of the game hasn't been like that so far. I will say that the rendering of textures in the wild area is noticeably worse than at other points. So in last week's podcast, I was saying I thought it looked great. I maintain that. I still think that it looks great, except in the wild areas where it does look a wee bit so. And you can control the camera, which is new for Pokemon games. So I don't know if the fact that this is supposed to be a shared area for people online to come in as well, I don't know if there's something else that has to be happening here that makes the textures look less good. But they do, and the trees were things that were pointed out on all the images.
Yeah, the fury.
Yeah, and you can see it. To be honest, you can see it. Do I care? Again, not really. Was it a bit of a big deal made out of this that I think was a bit ridiculous? It's kind of still yes. The argument that this is one of the biggest, in fact, the most profitable franchise in the world, and that they're putting out games that have, pretty bad pop-in as well, particularly in the wild areas, pretty bad. And textures like that, you're just like, well, but why not just give it a wee bit extra money and just make it look super great like the rest of the game? And I do think that most of the other game looks, not outstandingly amazing, but it looks great for what it is. It looks like a Pokemon game to me. Well, basically what I'm trying to get at here is that I think that all the criticisms that were thrown at this game were valid, mostly. I just think that the magnitude at which they were screamed was way, way too much. It was ridiculous, to be completely honest. And none of it really has affected my playing of the game.
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't like, which has been a criticism for basically everyone that I've heard talk about it, is that in the wild area you can come across Pokemon that you cannot catch. That's dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that.
Particularly that it doesn't seem to tell you that in advance. Or
It does not tell you that.
Yeah.
No, well, it doesn't tell you that in advance, but you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
Because there's like loads of stuff running around that you can very obviously catch, and then there's this one bigger Onyx, say, wandering around that you're just like, well, there's got to be that one, isn't it? You know? So I went into a fight with an Onyx that was level 20, say, and I was like level 11 or whatever, and I couldn't catch, like, it physically would not let me throw a Pokeball at it for reasons unknown, which is so strange to me because they already had a system in place, and it's a well-established system of not letting you use Pokemon that were too high leveled for you. They just wouldn't obey you in battle, so you would just get trounced because it just wouldn't do anything. I have no idea why they just didn't continue with that system,
weird,
or why they didn't allow, like, in the wild areas, why those Pokemon just didn't appear to you and only ones that you could catch appear to you, or even if those Pokemon did appear to you, they were just at a level where that you could catch them. I don't understand any of that. I don't understand why they've done that. That is a legitimate criticism that I think is genuinely just dumb. Like,
Yeah, it just seems like a weird, bad design choice, basically. But it sounds to me like, from everything that you've said, it comes down to what a person is looking for in this game, and maybe games generally, but particularly for Pokemon fans and a Pokemon game. What is it that matters to you? It's that battling is fun and maybe not massively challenging, but might be nice if it was slightly more challenging. And
I would love for there to be a difficult
yeah,
one. You know that?
It does sound like
I would
it's missing
really,
that.
really love that.
But it's that, and it's the catching and collecting and growing and building your little team and exploring the world, right? It's not the graphics, and it's not having this really rich, deep RPG system.
And again, like, I'm not someone that plays this like super hardcore. Like, I'm not into like min-maxing my team and all that and like playing competitively. I'm not into that. Currently my team is full of Pokemon that I just think look cool, including Yamper, who is the little corgi thing with a love heart on his arse, who is amazing, who is possibly my new favourite Pokemon, which I know makes me like a basic bitch because the whole internet loves it, but I don't care. It's so good. Yeah, I mean, all that's just great, and it's just like delightful and fun. Your rival is an absolute pain in the hoop. He is one of the most annoying characters in a video game I think I have ever come across, and he seems to be omnipresent.
Oh god!
But apart from that, everyone else is
more annoying than
fine.
Claptrap. Surely not.
I mean, it's at that level, mate. I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Jesus
it's
Christ.
right there. If it's not as annoying as Claptrap, it's like
It's
right
on the brink.
Anyway, so the reason why I'm not going to play Death Stranding next, Lewis, is because I'm basically going to play Star Wars next. That is the reason. And I think that I can finish that relatively quickly.
Oh yeah.
Compared to Death. Well, okay, relatively quickly compared to Death Stranding.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I think Death Stranding would be fantastic to play over Christmas, where I might be on a bit of a break and I might have a lot of time to sink into it all at once. And that is my current plan. What do you think?
I don't love it because I want you to be playing it at the same time as me.
You told me off air that you don't like playing games
usually.
at the same time as me because I play them too quickly.
Yeah, but I just don't like. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to talk about Death Stranding to different people because no one in my kind of immediate circle is playing it yet. Selfishly, I just wanted sort of some feedback on what I've been saying. But I think your analysis there makes little sense because I do definitely think like Death Stranding works in small chunks because everything is these small missions from place to place, essentially. But to really have the time to immerse yourself in it, I think would also be very worthwhile. So fair enough.
All right, time for the news. All right, news item number 1. A new Half-Life game, Lewis. A new Half-Life game. We mentioned on last week's show that we would be getting a new one. It is in fact called Half-Life Alyx, and it is indeed a VR game. It is a prequel set between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. It's coming March 2020. It seems that the story will be about 15 hours long, which is about the same length as Half-Life 2. It will be coming free with any Valve Index headset that you buy, VR headset that you buy. And if you already own an Index headset, then you will also be given the game for free. Although you can also play it on any other PC-based VR, so your Oculuses, your Vives and what have you. I think that it's very clear that Valve want this to be their killer app for VR and for the Index. And they were very, very clear that this was not a tech demo and that this was a full game and it isn't just showing off their new headset. So what are your thoughts? I
mean, I think that's probably a wise thing for them to have pointed out. The trailer does look pretty incredible, I thought. I
thought the trailer was incredibly impressive, both as an FPS and as a VR game.
Yeah.
I thought it was very, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks absolutely sumptuous, and like I don't know. So I've never played the Half-Life games. I'm not sure if you have, but it's sort of...
I played a bit of two.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
I'm not... I cannot be as excited about this as many people are, unfortunately.
No, absolutely not.
But I'm glad that Valve are making games again. I think that's great. They're obviously had been in the past one of the most premium game makers in the world. So it's good to see them making anything again. But yeah, I don't have the same investment in Half-Life as many people out there.
No, I'm exactly the same. But like from watching that trailer, I was like, this looks amazing. I'm sure Half-Life fans will be impressed and intrigued by it as a thing, even though there's bound to be some disappointment that it's VR only. And they have said that it's definitely VR only at the moment,
yes,
right? So
it is definitely there to sell Valve Index.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, for a lot of people, they're not going to get to this. But like you say, getting back into making video games, I think that the idea of a Half-Life 3 or even like a Half-Life 2 Episode 3, it must be so, and like the pressure to make that game and to get that game right must be so enormous for Valve and for the people working there, that it's maybe this is the right thing, really, is to make a kind of half step, a gentle reintroduction to the world.
I actually wonder if this is them kind of ramping up to
something bigger. Yeah.
To quite genuinely a Half-Life 3.
This seems to allow that, right? I think that this is them kind of dipping their toes in the water, maybe getting their dev teams back into the groove of making a Half-Life game, getting the fans invested. But
I think Gabe Newell came out and said that there were loads of teams in there that wanted to get stuck into another Half-Life game.
Yeah.
Totally unsurprisingly, of course.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, managing those expectations for something that has just been like the holy grail, you know? Like when will Half-Life 3 be? And for so long, I think so many people had basically given up on it.
Yeah.
But this gives it a new lease of life.
Absolutely, it does. And it's exactly that, though. It's like if this was a trailer for Half-Life 3 and it was dropping in 6 months' time or whatever, less than that, 4 months' time, if that game isn't the best video game ever made, then there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. So I think doing it this way, coming in with a VR game, letting really diehard fans that are going to invest in the tech to play this get a sense of it, I think probably that means like next gen. I know that doesn't mean anything for Steam, but in the kind of cycle of the next gen, we might see it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's kind of like Half-Life 3, Fable 4. It's like the games that will never be.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're coming back around this. Interesting side note to all this: the Campo Santo team that made Firewatch and were making the game in the Valley of Gods had been pulled from that game to work on this VR title. And in actual fact, I think the Campo Santo website is actually taken down in the Valley of the Gods as a game at all.
Oh wow, jeez.
So I don't know if that's been entirely shelved and Campo Santo has effectively just been absorbed into Valve as a massive entity, you know what I mean?
Because Valve bought them like a year or so ago, right?
No, I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think in the Valley of Gods was shown at E3 2018, and it wasn't long after that at all when Valve bought them. So it's maybe 18 months or something like that.
Yeah. But so they are part of the Valve family, is really all I was getting at.
Oh, yeah,
so,
definitely.
So it maybe makes sense. Like I gather that particularly the kind of story narrative side of Campo Santo was kind of absorbed into making this new Half-Life game. So like they're taking their expertise there. That probably does slow down development massively in the Valley of Gods. So,
but the fact that it's been removed from their websites, that sounds to me as if, right, guys, let's just put that to bed and we'll get you working on something else. I mean, it makes me interested. Does Campo Santo even really exist anymore, or are they just Valve?
Are they just Valve? Yeah. I mean, sounds like it. That's a shame because that game looked really good, and Firewatch is really well liked.
Firewatch was brilliant. Yeah, it was absolutely great. Yeah, no, it's a shame if it does turn out that way. Hopefully they can bring it back though. All right, news item number 2. More new games. Well, sort of remakes of old games. Resident Evil 3 remake is apparently in development, Lewis. A gentleman by the name of Spawnwave on YouTube initially leaked this information, but subsequently this has been corroborated by Eurogamer sources that Resident Evil 3 remake is in fact in development. For those of you that don't know, Resident Evil 3 takes place in and around the events of Resident Evil 2. You play as Jill Valentine in this one, and instead of being pursued by Mr. X, you're pursued by the Nemesis monster instead, Lewis. Presumably, again, the remake will be made in the amazing, gorgeous RE engine, which will be superb. I'm sure it will look absolutely fantastic. Apparently Capcom is aiming to get the game out in 2020 at some point as well, so I'm not sure this will be end of this generation, start of the next generation. Maybe it'll be a cross-gen title, probably more than likely now that I've said that out loud. And quite frankly, if it's anything like the RE2 remake, I think we're in for a real treat there. This is the only Resident Evil game I don't think I've played.
I was literally thinking the same thing, that this is the one that I don't know very much about, and beyond the basic
I get this
stuff,
one and Code Veronica mixed up.
Yeah.
Because they were developed very kind of
almost simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the story is that Capcom were developing a whole range of projects after Resi 2, and then PlayStation announced the PS2, and they had to completely rejig everything that they were doing. So
because Code Veronica only came out on, was it
Dreamcast originally?
Dreamcast, that's right.
But then did come to PS2, because I remember
it did.
Like my dad used to play that game.
Oh yeah,
like he used to sit on the couch underneath my bed.
Yeah,
and play
so that's it. So I have played Code Veronica. This is the one I haven't played.
Yeah,
that will be that.
So 1 and 2 I had also seen like my dad and my cousins and stuff playing as a kid, but 3 is just a total blank spot for me. Since Resi,
this is going to be awesome. This is going to be like a new game for us. This is exciting.
So we should say it's not been confirmed, but right when Resi 2 remake came out, there was so much talk about this. Capcom have not been very quiet about. I mean, I think they've more or less said before, if the fans make noise about it, we'll do it. And there's been this conversation for a long time about whether or not they will proceed down the lines of remakes on one stream and then sequels to Resident Evil 7 on the other stream. It makes sense. Like, people want.
See,
this.
if after this we're getting a remake of Resident Evil 4, I will shit a brick. I would be so happy with that.
I don't feel like we need that yet. That's my only caveat.
Oh no, I would love
a
no man, I would definitely love that. And then just forget 4 and 5 exist, and then give us Resident Evil 8.
But yeah, this should be really cool. Like, it does follow. I think like the way that Resident Evil 2 remake.
Oh, sorry, 5 and 6.
Yeah,
forget 5 and 6 exist. God, that there could have been some angry tweets there.
4 is like the best.
Oh no, 4 is
right?
sensationally good. Yes,
it just, for some reason 4 still feels very fresh to me, even though it's now 15 years since it came out, something like that, maybe more.
Oh yeah,
I think it's 2004 that came out.
Could have been, yeah.
So yeah, the idea of getting this now in that engine, Resident Evil 2 remake really borrowed a lot, I think, from Nemesis, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in terms of how Mr. X behaved. I think because I think originally the Nemesis that pursues you in 3, that was their big pitch for that game, was that the feeling of being stalked was really important, and that he could pop up at any time and kind of haunt you. And that became like this absolutely central thing in Resident Evil 2 remake. So yeah, I think this is cool. I'm sure we'll get confirmation soon. What does it do to Project Resistance though? Who knows?
Oh no, I still think that exists. That's obviously a smaller title for me. You know what I mean? That'll just be that'll be a totally separate team, I reckon, is working on that. Just for clarity, Resident Evil 4 originally came out in January 2005.
2005. Shit.
So you were so close. In fact, you were 11 days away.
Damn it.
Pretty close, man. Pretty close. But anyway, yes, the prospect of, quite frankly, any game made in that RE engine, thumbs up as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
But Resident Evil 3, a game that I have never played, so this will functionally be a brand new game to me. I'm very excited about.
Good
very
stuff.
excited about. Indeed. All right, and news item number 3. Google, Lewis, has been accused of lying about the resolution and performance of the games in Stadia, and that they are not meeting the 4K 60 frames per second as promised, as advertised by Google. The website 9to5Google accused them of lying about this originally. It's been found out that Destiny is being rendered natively at 1080p and then being upscaled to nearly but not quite 4K. Red Dead 2 is being rendered at 1080p or 1440p, depending on how good your internet is, basically, and then being upscaled to 4K. For those of you who are not overly technically minded, and I am certainly not very technically minded, I'm perfectly willing to admit that, and I don't really understand how something goes from being rendered in 1080 and then being upscaled to 4K. But I think the Eurogamer article that I was taking this from, links as always in the show notes over at PlayersToo.com, put it well when they said that essentially Stadia's 4K mode is actually processing fewer pixels than the PS4 Pro, which, I mean, that's not even getting to the Xbox One X, which is better than the PS4 Pro, you know what I mean? And keeping in mind that these consoles are just about to be replaced.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know, it's not great, but for the more technically minded of you, Digital Foundry done a real good deep dive into this. If you don't know who Digital Foundry are, they're effectively an arm of Eurogamer these days, but they do amazing deep dives into like the tech and performance of video games, and you should really go and check them out. They are incredibly good at what they do, but they had this to say.
Yeah, bear with me here. Perhaps there's something more we're not seeing behind the compression, but from a technical perspective, Red Dead 2 on Stadia doesn't seem to be delivering on key marketing promises, certainly not the spirit of them at least. At the reveal, we were told that Stadia's GPU has the power of Xbox One X and PS4 Pro graphics combined, yet Red Dead Redemption 2 on Stadia only has 44% of the X's rendering resolution, while even the 4.2 TF PS4 Pro GPU is generating a higher pixel count even before factoring in its checkerboarding upscale. Do I have that checkerboarding upscale, Mark?
Do I have it? Or do we not want it?
I don't know.
So that shows you where we are. However, Google have subsequently responded to these claims with this statement.
Stadia streams at 4K and 60 frames per second, and that includes all aspects of our graphics pipeline from game to screen. GPU, encoder and Chromecast Ultra all outputting at 4K to 4K TVs with the appropriate internet connection. Developers making Stadia games work hard to deliver the best streaming experience for every game. Like you see on all platforms, this includes a variety of techniques to achieve the best overall quality. We give developers the freedom of how to achieve the best image quality and frame rate on Stadia, and we are impressed with what they've been able to achieve for day one. We expect that many developers can, and in most cases will, continue to improve their games on Stadia. And because Stadia lives in our data centres, developers are able to innovate quickly while delivering even better experiences directly to you without the need for game patches or downloads.
Now, this to me is basically saying, oh no, our stuff is capable of doing all that, 4K 60 frames per second, but the developers haven't done this. Don't know why you're looking over here, guys. You should be pointing those fingers at those developers. And I'm a wee bit like, well, developers weren't promising that, were they?
No.
They weren't promising that. You were promising that, Google.
If that was always going to be the case, then you should have said straight up top, we can do this, but depends if the developers will. So
yeah, and I can't believe for a single solitary second that Rockstar Games and Bungie are going to put their game out at any less good of a quality than they can physically manage. So I basically don't believe them. I basically don't believe that Bungie and Rockstar have chose to put their games out at a worse resolution than what they were capable of doing.
Yeah.
So either these ports are shit, which is entirely possible. The tech, which Google says can render these games at 4K, 60 frames per second, isn't doing that just now for whatever reason. Or they're just straight lying about it, basically. You know what I mean?
I guess they want.
I don't really believe that they're straight lying about it.
No.
I believe that they believe that their hardware, their data centers can do this. I don't know if there's just been poor communication, is what I will say, not miscommunication, just completely poor communication between what is being told to the public, their marketing effectively, and what is technically possible here, or what is technically possible at launch at least, and what we should have expected, because they've not managed any expectations at all. No. They've just let everyone think that this is going to be the greatest thing out the box, and it's been a fucking car crash.
It has been a bit of a car crash now,
it's really not been good at all.
There's been something almost every day since launch, like more and more sort of claims like this and issues like this. I guess my one addition to your list of potential reasons there is that maybe, and you mentioned belief, and I think that's really important, maybe the developers and the publishers didn't believe that Stadia could do the things that they're saying it was, so they maybe didn't push it as hard as they could have done. So that could change if that was the case. But you could imagine that Rockstar might be like, we won't put this out at the forest of 4Ks because Stadia might shit the bed.
They're not putting it out at any 4K. They're putting it out at 1080 and 440. And then it's been up-res to 4K. So what is going into your TV is technically a 4K signal. However, your game is not being rendered at 4K. So it's not true 4K. It's not under any circumstances. It's simply not. And the fact that the PS4 Pro, which isn't even the best console at generating 4K images, is doing better than Stadia, when Stadia were given it all this, we're so much more powerful than them combined, never mind as individual consoles. That was bound to come back and bite them in the arse, that claim, wasn't it? Something that was brought up to me earlier, that Phil Harrison, who's in charge of the Google Stadia launch, worked at PlayStation during the PS3 launch and worked at Xbox during the Xbox One launch, and they are the three worst launches of all the generations potentially. So
certainly in recent history, good lord.
Phil's not been brilliant at the old launches.
Just It's a simple rule, like stop saying things that you can't definitely deliver.
Yeah, if you can't deliver on it, don't say it. Or if you can deliver on it, if you do have your hardware there in a data center somewhere miles away that can generate this thing at 4K 60 frames per second, but it's not going to work out of the box, then just fucking tell us, Phil. Yeah. Tell us, Phil.
Well, and particularly when you're then asking, founders to pay £130-ish plus the Stadia subscription, and then for a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, probably £50-60. Yeah, because they're pretty much all full price. So you've paid about 200 quid for this system for one game, and it doesn't play the way you were told it was going to.
Oh, deal. Deal. Okay, news item number 4. Kojima seems to be hinting that his next game might be a horror game, Lewis. Over the weekend, Kojima tweeted this.
So this is a direct tweet from Hideo Kojima, whose first language is not English, I should point out.
Yes. This isn't just Lewis reading terribly.
As to make the scariest horror game, I'll watch the scary movies in order to awaken my horror soul. The Eye is the Thai horror movie I rent when making PT, but was too scary to finish watching. The package is scary, so I rented the disc only. Will I be able to finish watching?
This coming only a few weeks as well after Guillermo del Toro tweeted that Junji Ito, who, for those of you who don't know, is an extremely famous manga artist and writer in the horror genre, was also a collaborator on PT. So it's interesting that both Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima, who were obviously both worked together on Death Stranding and PT, have both in the last month or so mentioned PT.
Yep.
Thoughts?
I mean, Christ almighty, I would love this so much. Did you ever play PT?
I never played PT, actually. I watched someone else play PT.
Yeah. Oh, fair enough, yeah. In case you don't know, PT was essentially a demo for an unfinished, unmade.
PT stands for playable teaser.
Basically, yeah. And it was a game that Kojima was developing with Guillermo del Toro.
Norman Reedus was the star as well. That's how they originally all got together.
Yeah. And so that was going to be the next Silent Hills game.
No. So, it was in the Silent Hill franchise. Yeah. The game was supposed to be called Silent Hills.
That's right. I was working through that in my mind as I spoke there. And it is incredibly creepy. You can't get it now, but it was incredible and absolutely terrifying, even though it was a short demo which mostly looped itself. So yeah, all of that is just to say the promise in PT, it's essentially a horror classic video game in and of itself now, particularly because it's sort of relative rarity, and it just felt like it was going to be fucking incredible what they were working on. So I don't even love a lot of horror games. We spoke about horror games just
not
Halloween
that long ago,
a couple weeks ago, and anything that he's doing I'm interested in. Anything that he's working in this horror space would be so interesting, and particularly that he's talking about absolutely scaring himself to death with this Thai movie.
It was a very weird way to bring it up.
But I hadn't put all those like little PT references together. I didn't know Guillermo del Toro had said that recently, so very interesting.
Very interesting.
I mean, we're years away from anything, obviously, even an announcement probably.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that they would have to have been basically full throttle on Death Stranding. There's no way that they could have been working on anything on the side, considering they had to get like Guerrilla Games and things like that to help them out to finish it. Yeah. So whatever this is going to be a long ways away, I would have thought.
Yeah.
All right, just finishing with a couple of shout outs. Shout out number 1, Battleborn, Lewis. Battleborn is being shut down and removed from digital stores. 2K have said that they will keep the Battleborn servers online through January 2021. However, the virtual currency sales will end on February the 24th, 2020. The game was developed by Gearbox and was originally released in May 2016. It went free to play in June 2017, and the final content update for the game came in September 2017, only 15 months after it had launched. It did not launch well. It was trying to compete with Overwatch. It failed. It simply wasn't as good as one of the best shooters ever. I don't think it was a bad game, is basically what I'm trying to get. I think it was a perfectly okay game. It tried to come out and compete with someone who they couldn't compete with, essentially. It didn't have the player base there. The decision to shut down these servers, I always find these things quite sad in general.
Totally, yeah.
In reality, the sad reality is that this isn't going to affect many people. I always just think it's quite sad to hear when a game servers are being shut down.
Totally.
That'll be the end.
Sad for the people who were still playing it, sad for the developers who put a lot of time and work into it, but I think to 2K's credit, and we don't give them a lot of credit on this show.
No, we do not. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, but like this has been dealt with, I think, fairly well. Like that's over a year of tail on this, even though it's, the
I mean, they've let you know in plenty of time.
Yeah, so you can still get your time with it, but every game like this is going to end at some point. So
that's true. Shout out number 2. It seems Rockstar Lewis could be working on a potential new IP, or could they?
Could they?
Who knows? Apparently called Project Medieval. The rumours of this first arose back when GTA 5 first came out. Apparently there was rumblings that Rockstar could be working on a new IP in a medieval setting. Allegedly that was then shelved to focus on Red Dead 2, and I mean, fair enough. But rumours seem to have resurfaced again because of a Rockstar employee's LinkedIn page, Lewis, which states that he worked on environmental design which focused on medieval architectural styles. And then someone on Reddit, who allegedly has a, quotes, source, stated that Project Medieval wasn't apparently back on and was set to release in 2021. This to me seems weak-ass weak sauce, personally. I do not believe for a fucking second that the next Rockstar game is not GTA 6. Because they would be quite stupid to do literally anything else.
I mean, they could just keep updating GTA 5 Online for much longer.
I think what they're going to do here is they're going to spin out GTA 5 Online. It will just be called GTA Online, which I think, to be honest with you, they have been marketing it as GTA Online for quite a long period of time. So it'll just be GTA Online, which will exist separately, and then GTA 6 will exist somewhere else over here. It's the most profitable game ever. I don't know why you would try and take your online subscribers away from that.
No, you just wouldn't. Absolutely not.
No, so I think that must have to exist separately, and then your GTA 6 comes. But this, I mean, I don't know if once upon a time maybe Rockstar were pissing about having a wee ideas sesh, and maybe they were doing something in a medieval setting. Would I like to see a new IP from Rockstar? Yeah, I think that would be really cool. I would actually quite like to see Bully 2, which I know is kind of been banded around as a rumour as well. I think that'd be great. But I simply don't think that any of this really constitutes a good rumour.
No, I mean, certainly the idea that anything's coming in 2021 seems sort of absurd. Essentially, what, 2 or 3 years after Red Dead 2?
Yeah, it's different studios though. I mean, that was basically their, was it San Jose? Or something like that.
Not even
San Diego.
Yeah,
Rockstar San Diego.
San Diego, yeah.
And this is Rockstar North, which is based in here.
So it would be Rockstar
sunny
North.
Scotland.
Yeah. It still just seems unlikely to me. But
no, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate. Yeah. I really don't believe this at all.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It was just interesting that it's been banded about. If it does turn out to be true, I am perfectly willing to have egg on my face for it, because I think it would be awesome if they made a medieval game, to be honest with you. But I just simply don't think that's going to happen.
Well, you heard it here first. Get your eggs ready, guys.
And just a final shout out number 3. Black Friday, Lewis, will be the Friday after you hear this podcast, dear listeners, or when this podcast first comes out. This is more a PSA, I suppose. Just don't get sucked into the hype of Black Friday, of Black Friday deals. Often these deals are simply not as good as other deals that you would get in the year, or as good as other deals that you would get in the year. I understand that if you're wanting to get something for someone for Christmas or something like that, it's one of the last big sales of the year, or probably the last big sale of the year in reality. If you're buying things for yourself, if you're buying games for yourself, just be conscious that it's not the be all and end all. You don't have to go out and spend a huge amount of money just now just to get these games that you could easily get for a similar price, if not less money, later next year at some point. Yeah, and keep your money for buying presents for all those people that you love for Christmas. And I would strongly recommend that people use like price trackers, particularly for Amazon. Like Camel is one that I use, which is a pretty good price tracker. And there's also like a Chrome plugin called Keeper that I use, or Keepa even, which is pretty good, and it is just a wee plugin that appears on your Amazon page anytime you're looking to buy something. It just tells you if this was cheaper in the recent past.
Nice.
Yeah, so just do things like that. Just make sure that you're not getting ripped off, basically, because that is what I truly feel a lot of people are trying to do in Black Friday these days. Absolutely, and it is not really the sale that it once was.
Be safe out there, yeah.
Be safe out there. Be wise with your money. Time for a beer, Lewis.
It is, eh?
And then we'll be back with Topic of the Week. And we are back with Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is VR and gaming, Lewis. VR and gaming. Now, neither of us play any games in VR. I've played one game in VR one time on someone else's VR, and as I understand it, no gaming in VR for you?
No, my wee cousin has a PlayStation VR headset, so I played it one Christmas, but it was just one of those stupid kind of scare you experiences. It wasn't a proper
like
game.
being on a roller coaster or
no,
whatever.
It just like sat on a bed and a clown thing comes over. Like it was just essentially what most people would refer to it as, like a tech demo.
Okay. Fair enough. Right. And I think it would be interesting to discuss, just off the back of the new Half-Life at Alyx coming out exclusively for Valve's new VR headset, why we didn't take to it particularly. So
yeah, I think the first thing for me, and probably the most obvious thing for all of us and most people listening to this, is just the outlay for the equipment and getting the right headset and the right setup. So the obvious one for us would be the PlayStation VR.
Well, the PlayStation VR is the most accessible headset. You can get a bundle, which I'm looking at right now, which is £300, but you get the headset and you get 5 games. One is Everyone's Golf VR and one is PlayStation Worlds, which I reckon is that tech demo that you were just talking about. But the other 3 are Skyrim, Astrobot and Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're pretty kick-ass.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's still £300, right?
£300. I mean, I think you can get just the headset for closer to £200 or maybe £250 or something like that. But just looking at the other headsets, I mean, the Oculus Quest, the cheapest Oculus Quest that you can get is £400. The cheapest Index that you can get is £460. The cheapest Vive that you can get is £500. And the most expensive Vive that you could get that I could find is £1,300.
Jesus Christ.
But I think that comes with other gear. You know? Yeah, I mean, you're right. I don't think that is an insignificant hurdle, is that it's fucking expensive.
It's so expensive, and it still feels like a risk. And I'll caveat that by saying that now, particularly just because it's the ecosystem I'm sort of best versed with, like the games available on PSVR are good. Like there is a lot of really good, interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, so we just mentioned Skyrim, Astrobot, Resident Evil 7, Moss was another big one. I mean, these are not bad games. I thought Beat Saber and everyone was on and on.
I mean, they're very far from bad games. I mean,
well, some of them are great. I mean, Astrobot was, legit one of the best games of that year. You know what I mean? In a strong year.
Exactly. So when I say it's a risk, I don't really mean now that there isn't the titles to back it up, because I think if you spent the £200 or £300 to get the PSVR headset, there is stuff to play there. That part isn't a risk. But it's how long really are you going to play it? What is the shelf life of this thing? And that obviously becomes difficult as well with console generations. We were talking just last week about how exactly PSVR will be supported on the PS5.
Yeah, we know that it will.
We know that it will.
But how well will it be? I don't know.
And is it the same headset? And
I think the big question for me, right, is that you mentioned time there, e.g. how long will it last? But I was thinking time spent in VR.
In the game, yeah.
Now, we just mentioned that the Half-Life Alyx is going to be the same length as Half-Life 2. Now, spending 15 hours in VR for a lot of people isn't a very desirable experience.
No.
And there's still problems with maneuvering in VR, and because it is such an immersive experience but your body isn't moving, it can be quite disorientating. It can be quite nauseating for people. There are people out there that just simply react badly to VR. I didn't react very well to VR. I'm going to be straight. Like, I mean, an hour, couple hours, fine. 15 hours, or like say like a long play session of like 6 to 10 hours if you're really long. You know what I mean? I mean, I couldn't imagine being just in the VR headset for that long. That is a huge length of time. You know,
totally.
And I think that is something that I'm not sure VR headsets can really get over. And for the amount of money we are being asked to invest as consumers, as gamers, I'm not really sure that I'm not sure that it's justifiable, and I think that it's probably better suited to a lot of kind of shorter, smaller titles like Astrobot, like Moss, rather than a huge 15-hour game.
Yeah.
Rather than like Skyrim. You know what I mean? I mean, how many hours could you put in Skyrim?
You live in there. People basically have been since it came released.
That, along with the price, along with wires as well, and space. You need a not insignificant amount of space to be able to set up the cameras correctly, to be able to stand back far enough away from them, to be able to be fully seen, and you do need a lot of space for it. And I think getting wireless headsets will definitely be a necessary step in the right direction. And to be honest with you, that is when I would then consider so like the Gen 2, if you like, of VR headsets, which are maybe moving away from going down a very technical route. Like, so for example, like the Vives, I think it's kind of supposed to be the best, technically speaking, but it's £1,300. Do you know what I mean? And I know that comes with like the Wii handsets and all that.
Yeah,
but,
the whole kit.
But I mean, it's a huge amount of money, where in actual fact I'd much rather make one for £250 like PlayStation, but wirelessly, and then sell it to much more people. You know, I just don't think that that's really the direction that anyone seems to be going in, apart from PlayStation, who are basically limited by their own hardware. All the PC based ones that we just mentioned, Vive, Oculus and Index, are going down a very technical route and high performance, and I'm not really sure that that's how you get people to buy in, because to buy in at that price is a huge investment, even if it is a Half-Life game. Do you know what I mean? And there's not much better bait than that, you know? like, how many people are going to be willing to spend upwards of 400 quid on this piece of hardware for one game? I mean, I'm sure that if you did spend that amount of money, you'd be tempted to buy other VR games.
Yeah,
but there is also the reality. Can I just say, I would love to love VR.
Yeah,
I would love to love VR.
And I'm increasingly thinking at the moment that we're starting to now miss out on gaming experiences that are a shame to miss. So, it's very unlikely either of us will play Half-Life Alyx.
No, yeah, I agree.
Asgard's Wrath, that we've talked about a couple of times now, that it's like one of the highest rated and kind of biggest, fullest experiences on VR. That came out this year. There's been a bit of buzz around that. There are Beat Saber, I just think looks like incredible fun. I would love to have a shot. Great
fun. A good thing about Beat Saber is that you're not moving in the environment.
Exactly. So it might be slightly easier, but
exactly.
It just comes down to that. Like, if there was a way to test, if you could rent a headset for a couple of days just to try it out, see how nauseous it makes you, see how long you can spend in it. And for some people, that would make you go, this is amazing, I love this, and I want to dive into these
spend
games
all day in here.
Exactly.
Doesn't make a difference to me. But then to other people, it could just be like, oh, I feel immediately ill. You know?
And I really think, like, if a company did do that, if it's maybe a way to save brick and mortar game shops in the short term, is just to say, you can come in, you can have a shot of this, you can see if you like it. If you did buy it from us, you'll get money off or whatever. Like, there's something there about being just a bridge too far. It's a bit like when we first started talking about Stadia. It's just kind of this thing where it sounds interesting and there's a lot to it, but it's just like slightly beyond my comfort zone, and I don't know if I want to commit actual money to that yet,
Yeah, I think John Carmack, who was the CEO of Oculus Rift and one of the most important men in gaming, I would argue, stated that he was not satisfied at the pace of progress of VR very recently, which I think was very telling. I think that a lot of people, including, again, all the people that we just mentioned, Facebook / Oculus, HTC and Vive, Valve and Index, and PlayStation, with a certain extent, to VR, I've got a lot of sunk cost right now in VR, and I think that you're going to probably see a couple of big moves coming soon, like Alyx for the Index, to try and jumpstart this as the future. But I think that they are now trying to force a future that actually not many people want.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because there's an article I was reading earlier on Eurogamer, and I'll share the link to that on PlayersToo.com, but that's from Phil Spencer talking to Steve Ivor, that basically he was saying, I have issues with VR, it's isolating, it goes against what he thinks gaming is about, which is a communal togetherness experience, essentially. I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, and that he basically said, we're responding to what our customers are asking for, and nobody's asking for VR. Now, that's not totally true. Obviously, some people will want good VR titles all the time. Of course they will. But that speaks exactly to that pace of progress that you just mentioned. Like, there isn't enough of a demand. There isn't enough happening in that space. You mentioned Half-Life Alyx there. Is there a franchise that you would be like, I've fucking got to buy a headset right now?
I was going to ask you exactly the same question, and I cannot possibly think what that would be.
No.
I cannot possibly think what that would be. I mean, quite genuinely, if they released the new Metal Gear game designed by Hideo Kojima in a VR headset, then I'd be like, fair play, you've got the royal flush there,
yeah, exactly,
know what I mean? But I mean, anything short of that, I'm basically going to be like,
and even I bet that's still only if that's in the Snake lineage, and essentially Metal Gear Solid 6, right? Like, if they released a Revengeance type game. Sorry. The next mainline Metal Gear Solid game designed by Hideo Kojima in the Fox engine in VR, then right, okay, fair enough. I'll consider.
I'll then consider it.
That's a high bar.
I know, it's an impossible bar. That's not going to happen. That is an impossible bar. So basically, I'm not sure unless VR has to become a lot more affordable for me to get on board. The technology has to come down in price, which it will, because all technology does. But it also has to still be widely, so it has to be supported as well now through being not very popular, and people will be losing money hand over fist on all these units. Like, even the Vive with their £1,300 headset, I bet they are losing a lot of money selling it at that price. I think that it's going to have to be supported for too long that these companies aren't going to be willing to do, essentially. And it'll be dropped. It'll be like the 3D TV. You know what I mean? It will just kind of go away.
Yeah, another fad.
And then it'll probably resurface again in 10 years when technology's moved on a lot further, and maybe we can get it for a more affordable price. But right now, I really think that as much as we're saying all that stuff about it, like, I really think that the entry point here, the price of it, is basically the same as buying another console.
Exactly.
Or in some cases, a relatively good gaming PC to get invested in it. And I simply don't think that many people are willing to do that for even the relatively good experiences that are there. Like, it would have to be something jaw-droppingly good, and that is what Steam are trying to do, Steam and Valve are trying to do with Half-Life Alyx, and that looks like a fantastic performance. It looks like probably the best VR title I've ever seen, and I'm still nowhere near interested in buying the headset. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way.
Totally. I totally agree with that. I think that is going to be such a test case for this, and if it doesn't sell gangbusters and start moving headsets...
I think there's a lot of sunk cost in VR from a lot of companies, and I think we're going to see a couple of big pushes like Half-Life Alyx very soon. And if they don't get any traction, or don't get as much traction as they've told their shareholders that they're going to, then I think that we'll see these PSVR and Vive, well, maybe not Vive. Vive seems to be doing a kind of different thing, but kind of Oculus and Index as well just kind of fade away over time, to be honest. Sad.
Yeah, it's a bit of a downer. But
bit of a downer. But I'd like to remind everyone that you can find PlayersToo on all the social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, the lot. You can find our written content over at PlayersToo.com. That's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts, that would really, really help us out. Again, it does a huge amount for the exposure of the show. I cannot explain enough how much it helps us. There is a reason, again, that every single podcast that you listen to asks you to do this. It just helps podcasts out so much. And if you could do this for us, it would really, really mean a lot. And thank you so much. I mean, genuinely, big, huge thank you to anyone that's already done that for us. It really does mean a lot. And thank you so much for that. I'd like to remind everyone that our game of the month, this month, is Limbo, which I have just started replaying.
Well, have you? Oh, nice one. Nice.
I kind of jumped back into it again. Yeah. God, it's good. I kind of forgot how good it was.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. I was watching a couple of YouTube videos of it, and I was thinking, this game's actually not very long. Maybe I should just jump back in and properly replay this before we talk about it on the podcast. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm super happy that I did. It's such a good game.
It's been too long for me. I definitely need to jump back in. I'm going to do that this week. So,
cool, man.
Because we're talking about it next week, right?
We are indeed, Lewis. We are indeed. So it will have to be this week.
Put it on my list. Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, stunning.
In
game.
Between bouts of Death Stranding, you can do that.
Just another creepy environment to be in.
Anyway, get on it, guys. It's a superb game, and if you have any thoughts on it, reach out and let us know what you think, because I would actually love to hear from anyone who didn't like it.
Totally, yeah.
Because I would be really interested to find out why people didn't like a game that I consider like one of the best indie games that I've ever played. All right, guys, we'll probably call it a day there. See you later.
Thank you.